Welcome to Obscure Epochs Revealed, the channel that brings history to life, from the battles of the Romans to the legends of the Vikings. Here we dive into myths, cultures, and forgotten stories, concise, thrilling, and full of facts. Tonight we travel back to a late autumn morning in 1918, when a single moment changed the world. At the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, artillery that had roared for years finally fell silent. This is the story of that day, the signing, the waiting, the last-minute losses, and the way we remember what followed. Imagine dawn in northern France, chill air, low clouds, mud, and shell-scarred fields stretching as far as the eye can see. For 4 long years, Europe had been a landscape of trenches, wire, and fire. Men on both sides had grown used to the rhythm of sentries, the flash of guns, the shock of explosions. But on this morning of November 11th, something different was in motion. Diplomats and generals were moving toward a decision that would pause the carnage, at least for a time. In the early hours of that day, representatives of the Allies and of Germany met in a private railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne. There, in a small, hushed, woodland clearing chosen to be as discreet as possible, the armistice terms were finalized and signed in the pre-dawn hours. Different sources give slightly different times for the formal signature, but the key fact is the agreement. Hostilities would cease at 11 a.m. that morning. The signing itself took place in the morning, hours before the ceasefire took effect. Why wait? Military and logistical reasons, mostly. Orders had to be received and transmitted. Ceasefires are messy to implement across hundreds of miles of front. Commanders needed time to tell units to stand down without causing confusion that could allow surprise attacks. Still, the delay had a terrible consequence. Fighting continued up until the last minute, and many lives were lost in those final hours. Historians note the tragic reality that thousands were killed or wounded between the signing and the 11 o'clock ceasefire. One of the most poignant stories from that morning is the fate of Private Henry Gunther, an American soldier often named as the last American to die in World War I. At 10:59 a.m., 1 minute before the armistice took effect, Gunther charged a German machine gun position and was shot dead. Accounts differ in detail and motive, but what remains undeniable is the heartbreaking finality. A life ended as peace was technically moments away. Gunther's death has become a symbol of the senselessness of those last minutes. Across the Western Front, similar scenes played out. Orders, confusion, bravery, and terrible miscommunication. Men who had lived in constant danger for years suddenly found themselves waiting for time itself to change the rules. Many accounts record that, even after the armistice was signed, artillery and small arms fired on until the very last second, costing additional lives and injuries in a conflict that had already caused unprecedented carnage. Contemporary estimates suggest that thousands more were wounded or killed during those final hours, a bitter footnote to the relief that followed. Then, at 11 a.m., the noise stopped. Imagine the mental shift. A battlefield that once belonged to the thunder of steel now fell still. Soldiers listened. For the first time in years, they could hear birdsong, the creak of a tree, the distant murmur of voices not shouted. The silence was surreal, not just the absence of sound, but the presence of a new, fragile possibility, the chance to rebuild, to mourn, to begin counting the cost. The armistice did not mean instant peace across the globe. The formal end of World War I came months later with the Treaty of Versailles in June 1919. Meanwhile, the world faced a daunting tally of loss: millions of dead, millions wounded, shattered communities and economies. Armistice Day quickly became an annual moment for remembrance. In the United States, the day evolved, officially renamed Veterans Day in 1954, to honor all American veterans, not only those of the Great War. That change recognized a painful truth. The world would not remain at peace, and many more would serve in later conflicts. We remember different things: the tactical genius and political compromise that can stop guns, the bureaucratic delays that allowed more bloodshed, and most of all, the human faces, the Henry Gunthers, the unknown soldiers, the families that learned of deaths by telegram. Remembrance rituals, the moments of silence, the wreaths at memorials, the wearing of poppies, are how societies keep those memories alive. They ask us, each year anew, to balance pride in service with sorrow at loss. Why revisit these events now? Because the 11th of November is not only a date on the calendar, it's a mirror. It asks what we do with the memory of conflict. Do we let it teach us restraint, compassion, the value of diplomacy, or do we mourn without changing? The lesson of that last morning in 1918 is painfully simple. Even as leaders sign peace, lives hang on how the details are handled. We owe it to those who died to learn from that fragility. Now, take a breath, if you can, pause with me for a moment, to think of the men and women who carried the weight of that war and of every war since. Put 8 to 10 seconds of soft, respectful music or silence. Their stories are the reason we mark this day. Their silence after the guns is the quiet we owe them now. Thank you for listening. If this piece moved you, consider sharing it and leaving a note about someone you remember today. For more historical deep dives and narratives like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Sources and further reading are listed in the description. Lest we forget.